Hey, yo, Pro Wrestling Podcast listeners, help us out and click subscribe to show your support while you're at it. If you are sick and tired of dropping $60 to $100 for the latest and greatest wrestling video games, stop immediately. Go to Wrestler Unstoppable, available through Facebook exclusively. Create your wrestler sign contracts, get involved in storylines, headline pay-per-views, even build your own corporation, all included in Wrestler Unstoppable, available now to all Facebook users, totally free. If you want to become a member of the Pro Wrestling Podcast family, you want your name in the shoutouts like Harold in St. Louis, Mike in Lansdale, then make sure you check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/Pro Wrestling Podcast. Sign up today. Don't forget we have loyalty rewards. $15 a month contributors get to co-host of one of our live shows of Going Live at 9:05 on a Saturday night, and our $7.50 a month contributors, you get entered into a drawing to also co-host an episode of one of our live shows. Hello everybody, welcome to this live episode of the Pro Wrestling Podcast. We'll be taking your questions, your comments, as well as touching on all the day's news and wrestling rumors throughout the show. Feel free to call into the Pro Wrestling Sound Off line if you have questions that come up off the top of your head and you don't get in time for the live show. Check out the sound off line 267-642-1160. Give us feedback, comments, questions, anything you want us to talk about. We're more than happy to try to get that into a future episode. If you're listening right now, if you're streaming our service through whatever group you use, then make sure you check out, give us some comments. We'll give you a shout out. We got to see John, the sports guy, is here right now listening from Alpine, Texas. John, always great to have you on the show. Don't forget, if you're brand new to the Pro Wrestling Podcast, check out our homepage at frowrestling.com, where you can preview all the topics coming to the show, come up with your questions, come up with things to talk about during the show or after the show. We love to hear from our fans. Just do me one favor. Make sure you tell us who you are so we can give you credit for your comments. Today's topic, we're headlining with the fact that AJ Styles has officially announced he signed a new contract with WWE. This ends any speculation anybody had about him potentially jumping to All Elite Wrestling or going elsewhere back to New Japan Pro Wrestling. Not the case. He's staying with WWE. Let's face it, at this stage of his career, at this age that he's at, he needs security. He needs to have the schedule that works best for him, and he needs that pretty much in WWE. All Elite Wrestling is still a wild card. We don't know what they're going to look like. We don't know what the TV deal is. I'm sure they'll get one at some point. There are networks that are courting them, but we don't know the details yet. He needs something that he knows is going to be secure and is going to be long-standing. WWE, you're not going to get any better than that. So, AJ Styles signing the new deal. He's not the only one. Sin Cara also signing a new 3-year deal with WWE. Now, he's kind of debated whether that's true or not online. I don't know whether we should believe that or not yet, but obviously, if that's making the news, then there must be some fire there. There's smoke. There's got to be fire. So hopefully WWE is wrapping up some of their talents and giving them those new contracts so that they can hopefully change the product a bit and give us what we're looking for. Keep the talent they got, acquire more talent, and give us better programming. I don't know about you guys, but last night watching Monday Night Raw, I was thoroughly appalled with the fact that they built up two major storylines going into the show. One being Finn Balor having a mystery opponent for the tag team match with Bobby Lashley and Lio Rush, which was totally underwhelming when Braun Strowman was his tag team partner. No insult to Braun Strowman. He's one of the best in the business, and I'm actually a huge fan of Braun Strowman's, but the issue I have is the perception of a mystery partner, usually, especially during WrestleMania season, makes you think there's a surprise coming, and that's something everybody, I think, was looking forward to. Braun Strowman's been on the show every single week. He's got this kooky angle going on, with celebrities and such. WrestleMania was kind of unclear until literally last night when they announced that he'll be taking the first spot in the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal this year, the 6th installment of that Battle Royal, which I think is another colossal waste of Braun Strowman, but at the end of the day, you gotta give the guy something to do that you, at least at this stage, he's not in any major feuds. So you had to put him somewhere where you can utilize his talent, let him be the monster that you've created, but also keep him out of the Universal Championship picture. He can't be obviously on the SmackDown Championship picture. So what are you going to do with somebody who's so over and so big, who, in a lot of ways has lost a lot of momentum since they haven't given him the Universal Championship? Put him back in the Battle Royal. I think it's a horrible use of him, but at least it's something of substance. If he wins it, great. The guy won the greatest Royal Rumble last year. He's believable. It would not be a surprise to me to see him win this one, but at the end of the day, I really wish they would have built something around him, even if it was only something like the Intercontinental Championship. Have him taking on Bobby Lashley for the Intercontinental title at WrestleMania. But they didn't go that direction either, and there's still a lot of intrigue about what they're going to do with the Intercontinental Championship with Finn Balor. Rumor has it, Finn Balor really wants to take on The Undertaker as his dream match. I don't see that happening anytime soon. It doesn't look like The Undertaker's. We've got 2 weeks of Raw left before the go-home show, and WrestleMania is here, and we have no match for The Undertaker. So it's becoming more and more evident that The Undertaker is not happening. Tonight on SmackDown, we've got the gauntlet match for Kofi Kingston. Everybody in the world expects him to somehow win that gauntlet and get the match with Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania, which they better do, because if you've been paying attention to WWE programming for the last several months, one of the things that is unquestionable is Kofi Kingston is as over organically with the crowd as anybody in the last several years, probably since Daniel Bryan's Yes Movement first got hot. And now you've got a situation where and based on the programming they gave us in early January when the McMahon family came back to television and they were explaining how things were going to change, they were going to give fans what they want. Well, they clearly have figured out that they weren't doing that, so they better be listening now. The fans want Kofi Kingston in that match, and more importantly, and this is the key, they want him to win the match. That's the part that I don't think WWE is going to do. I don't think they're going to give him the championship, and that is a failure. They need to give Kofi Kingston that championship at WrestleMania. That being said, WWE, everything you're doing is not all bad. It's really not. If anybody's paid close attention to the spoilers for the next several weeks of NXT, and if you don't want to know about the spoilers for NXT programming, then you're going to have to skip ahead a few minutes. But they have the card for NXT TakeOver is unbelievable. It is stacked. The NXT Championship, we know that Tommaso Ciampa got injured. He had neck surgery. He's going to be out an extended period of time. And what that means is he obviously has to relinquish the NXT Championship. So when he relinquishes that championship, Triple H has made the announcement that the championship will still be decided at NXT TakeOver. Johnny Gargano will take on Adam Cole of the Undisputed Era to crown a new champion. I expect Gargano will probably win that match, but that is not the only amazing match on the card. It is stacked. Velveteen Dream is going to defend the North American Championship against Matt Riddle. That's a match I don't know that anybody ever really thought of until recently, and it's already a dream match scenario. The War Riders are going to take on Ricochet and Aleister Black. I think that makes a lot of sense. Even with Ricochet and Aleister Black being on the main roster, give them one last major match angle in NXT at TakeOver right before WrestleMania and let them really showcase what they've got one last time for NXT. You have Pete Dunne defending the United Kingdom Championship against Walter. Now, here's the thing. He's held that title for so long. It's time for a new champion. Not because I don't want Pete Dunne to be champion. I'm fine with him being champion. But it's time to let that championship go elsewhere so that he could get back into the chase to regain the championship if he loses it. Walter is the perfect guy to do that. They've announced Shayna Baszler, Io Shirai, Kairi Sane, and Bianca Belair will do battle in a fatal four-way for the Women's Championship of NXT. That is another incredible match. So when you look at NXT TakeOver, the match card is sick. It is one of the best match cards I've seen on any pay-per-view in almost since last WrestleMania. WWE's dropped the ball quite a few times. This is not. The NXT TakeOver event is a loaded card. Let's just hope that creatively they can make this work and give people some of the matches and some of the performances that we've come to expect from NXT. Another NXT tidbit here, injury to the NXT star Chelsea Green. She broke her wrist. She was doing so well in NXT, really cultivating her character, and a lot of people felt like it wouldn't be long before she'd be called up to the main roster. Obviously, that's going to be delayed now with the broken wrist, but when she returns, it's expected she is going to get a sizable push, and really, it's not a bad thing. You know, Zack Ryder, her real-life beau in the world, is somebody who has not done much in the last several years. Couldn't you see a situation where he could be sent down to NXT and work with his woman and really try to cultivate more excitement and more attraction to his character and her character, and then eventually move him back to the main roster where the two of them could be almost in a Andrade and Zelina Vega role in the future. I could see that happening. I hope they do something substantial with her, because I think she's an incredible talent, and they need to do something better with him in the first place. I mean, let's face it, the guy has paid his dues. He's been in the company forever. Only reason he ever got any kind of interest from the fans was because of his own promotion, going online and doing his own YouTube series. So hopefully they give him a chance, and this would be a great way to do that. Just want to touch a little bit on the Kurt Angle situation, because it seems to be one of the hottest topics today in the world of wrestling, and I agree with almost everybody. I don't know, the Braun Strowman I said was very deflating, but the reality is nothing was more deflating than Kurt Angle's announcement. If you couldn't see Kurt Angle, it's weird, because if you think about the way WWE's been booking things for the last couple years, we all should have seen it coming. Like, they really believe in this Kurt Angle Baron Corbin match. I don't know why. No offense to Baron Corbin, but he's not, I don't know, say a Chris Benoit, Eddie Guerrero kind of technical wrestler. And that's the kind of guy that Kurt Angle works best with. Kurt Angle should have been in there with Ricochet. He could have been in there with Finn Balor. Think about if Finn Balor's mystery tag team partner was Kurt Angle, and at the end of the match, he announced he wanted to face Finn Balor. Would that not have been a much better angle and a much better match at WrestleMania? It would have made Finn Balor mean something. And then, some people said, oh, they can't do that because then he can't debut or bring back the Demon character. I don't care about the Demon character if it's going to be the last match for Kurt Angle. I don't even know if I want to see the match now when it's Baron Corbin. And I'm not the only one who feels that way. When you look at Jim Ross was on Twitter saying the same thing, underwhelmed. Kurt Angle's wife was same thing. It was not what they wanted, but this is what WWE is going with. They could have done the Cena match, and I loved it. You could hear the fans on Raw last night chanting, "We want Cena. We want Cena." Or CM Punk. CM Punk. Look, I'm telling you right now, if I was WWE, if you told me that Kurt Angle was going to have his last match, if I could throw $2 million at CM Punk and get him to come in and wrestle one match, I'd do it. I'd throw him $3 million. Why not? Make Kurt Angle's go-away match something to be remembered, something special. Kurt Angle and John Cena, yes, I know it's been done, but it hasn't been in so long, it would have been perfect. Instead, we're going to get that wonderful Kurt Angle versus Baron Corbin match that we've all not been looking forward to seeing. In other news in the world of professional wrestling, Stephanie McMahon is very non-committal about whether or not we're going to see another Evolution pay-per-view, and the reason for that is a little weird. They already think they can find a way to negotiate with Saudi Arabia that the women will be able to perform this year. Keep in mind, they released the pay-per-view schedule, and there are 2 Saudi Arabia pay-per-views again this year. I suspect another Greatest Royal Rumble in the spring into the summer season, and then another one in the fall. So if you can find a way to get a country that is completely anti-female performer to allow you to let your women perform, think about the socio impact of that. Think about how big that is for progress for women in Saudi Arabia. Look, I'm not tooting the Saudi Arabia horn after the Khashoggi stuff. I'm just saying, as a society, if they are willing to allow WWE women performers to perform at a major sporting event, then that is huge from a social standpoint and something that people need to consider when they are very much anti the Saudi Arabia deal. I got all that in the past. I'm talking about now. We need to think about the movement of helping women get equality in all places around the world, and this would be one way to do it. Now, the reason it affects Evolution is Evolution, and they've never admitted this, but WWE created Evolution last year, not just to have the first women's pay-per-view. They did it so that they can give the women a payday because they didn't get a payday for the Greatest Royal Rumble. That's what they did. We're not stupid. We know exactly what happened there. But at the same time, it was very successful. It sold out. It was a good draw. People liked the show, and the matches were actually pretty solid. So why not do another one? They are non-committal. Stephanie would not say that that was definitely going to happen, but I think it's something they really need to consider because in this women's revolution era, it's what we need. And when you got shows and companies like Women of Wrestling getting renewed for a second season, and the Impact Knockouts doing so well, Women of Honor doing so well, and with AEW promoting women's wrestling the way they're going to, you gotta give something that you can't see everywhere else. You can't see an all-women's pay-per-view, except maybe Women of Wrestling at some point this year. You can't see an all-women's pay-per-view very often. Let WWE do it and do it right. And this time, instead of it being a last-minute thing where you didn't promote it very well on television because you were worried about promoting other events, really promote the thing. Make the match card amazing. Bring in whoever you have to bring in to make it just be an absolute killer event. WWE on the signing trail, they signed DJ Zema Ion, formerly of Impact Wrestling. He's another one that's going to go down to NXT and start performing right away. I love it that they're starting to do that. I mean, we need to see more people come in, and he's somebody who can really help. You know, he's perfect for 205 Live. He's a lighter guy. And now that they signed Robbie E last week, you know, there's some history there, some comfort there, and it'll probably help the two of them in their development as they go through the Performance Center. Somebody who is not looking real good is Gallows and Anderson. They have been pulled from all WWE live events for the foreseeable future. Now, we know that they turned down a 5-year, multi-million-dollar contract extension to stay with WWE. And it's not that WWE is closing the book on them, but they are negotiating. And until they figure out their negotiations, they don't want to promote them on house shows, almost as a strong-arm tactic to get them to sign a contract. Now, the reality is, they may want to wait it out and say, listen, we're going to wait till September when our contracts are due, and maybe we don't want to come back. You're not using us. You're making us a glorified comedy act. They kept their WWE Network show for one episode and canceled it. Maybe they're frustrated, you know, or maybe they just want to see what the landscape in the world of wrestling is come September. You can't fault them for that, but taking them off the house shows means you're impacting their bottom line. That's going to harbor some ill will if I was them. Now, that's not to say they won't show up on pay-per-views and on television tapings, but the house shows they're not going to be at. So we'll definitely have to keep an eye on what they do there, because they have already dropped the ball so heavily with both Gallows and Anderson. Coming into WWE, they had so much steam, so much momentum. People knew who they were, which I think was a little bit of a shock to Vince McMahon, that so many people knew who Gallows and Anderson were. And then they just dropped them. They totally moved them down the card, and they've done nothing of substance since, and that's really a shame. One short Raw Tag Team Championship reign is almost an indictment on WWE's booking as anything else. Somebody else who's not doing so well, also in the doghouse, EC3, who's been getting beaten on weekly tapings of the main event. He got beat by Tyler Breeze. You know, he hasn't been featured much on television, and we don't know why. Vince McMahon just gets in these moods about certain people, and he apparently is not thrilled with EC3's character. I don't get it. I think he's a perfect fit for what WWE's trying to do right now, but for some reason, Vince McMahon doesn't see it. And let's face it, if Vince doesn't like you, you're going nowhere in WWE, and that's a problem. You know, I understand the guy has created this thing. It's like his baby since the early 80s, and he cultivated it from, you know, house shows to WrestleMania to 15 pay-per-views a year and all that stuff. And I get it. He's done so well, but he is out of touch. Fans want to see great wrestling. EC3 proved in Impact Wrestling. You won't hear me brag about Impact Wrestling often, but I will absolutely brag about, especially that period. I'll brag about EC3's championship run there. He did a great job. He played a great heel. He was very athletic, had great movesets, great matches with almost everybody. Promote this guy. At one point, they were thinking that he was going to do a match with John Cena. How do you build him up to face John Cena when we don't even know who he is really yet on the main roster? I mean, of course, us diehard fans, we know who he is, but we haven't seen him enough on the main roster. At this point, I don't even know if we're going to see John Cena at WrestleMania. We're 2 weeks away, and we have nothing promoting John Cena for the show. Some people were upset that Batista wasn't at Raw last night, and they did that little vignette video conferencing supposedly from Florida, which is not true. Batista already started filming Dune. That's why he wasn't at WrestleMania. Congrats to Batista. He's a Hollywood starlet now, and he has, I don't know if you've ever checked out his IMDb account. He's been in a ton of movies. Tons. For several years now. So he's very busy, but I love that he at least gave some time to send an interview to WWE so they can further the storyline. And I actually enjoyed the interview. I know a lot of people are giving flack to it, thinking it's not good. I don't know if he's playing the heel, the face, like this in-between character or what it is, but I'm liking it. And I'm not always the biggest Batista fan. I like the guy. I'm not always the biggest fan, but I'm really liking the way they're playing this. So we're going to have to see how that plays out. Dana Warrior was announced last week that she was doing this trial basis with WWE Creative for the women's division. Apparently now is a full-time WWE Creative member. She has writing experience from the past, and apparently she's going to be a huge part of the women's division going forward, trying to help plan some new innovative stuff. And that's very cool for the women's division, and to get somebody with some fresh ideas, hopefully some, you know, new matchups, new storylines, because let's face it, outside of Ronda, Becky, and Charlotte, there hasn't been a lot of excitement. Yeah, I know the Sasha Banks and Bayley winning the tag titles is very cool, and I'm happy for them. but the rest of it's gotten kind of stale. Now, I love the Beth Phoenix coming back and doing her thing, and obviously there's going to be a triple threat for those tag titles at WrestleMania. Maybe they throw the Iconics in for a four-way. If they were really smart, they'd throw Io Shirai and Kairi Sane in there, too, from NXT to make it really cover all the brands. But it's curious to see what they're going to do with that. But I just don't feel any excitement for the women's division. Hopefully Dana Warrior can help do that. Enes Kanter, not that I'd like to talk NBA very often, but he is an NBA star right now, and is very clear that he is very much interested in a WWE career once he's finished. He said he loves working out. He's already reached out to Paul Heyman and has already talked about what he needs to do to get into the business when he's done his on-court career for the National Basketball Association. I think that's a huge thing for WWE. If I was Vince, I'd jump all over it because he would bring mainstream press to WWE, not on the level of Ronda Rousey, but let's be honest. Basketball fans and wrestling fans, they're a similar breed. Same as football fans, baseball. Like, the sporting world loves similar things. And if you get a guy who's got brand name recognition from one league and bring him to another, we don't have much of, the old days where who's going to jump ship from the NWA to WWF and who's going to jump ship from WWE to WCW, WCW to WWE. We don't have much of that anymore. This isn't like that, but it's got that kind of element to it where we could see somebody come from a major sporting organization, the NBA, and go to WWE. I think they should jump all over it. Jake and Dave Crist, the OVE tag team from Impact Wrestling, re-signed recently, and what I'm noticing is a huge trend for Impact Wrestling. Congrats to them that they are locking down talent, and they are making sure that no matter who's coming out, whether it's All Elite Wrestling, Ring of Honor, New Japan, no matter who's looking for talent, they're securing their brand. And the reality is this: if you keep signing your talents and bringing them back and keeping them long term, fans will start to identify with them. Like if I said to you, when you say the letters WWE, what is the first thing that pops in your head? It's usually something like John Cena, Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, something like that, because they've been there so long and been such a focal part of the program, and they've been pushed the right way. Well, in Impact Wrestling, they've got a crop of guys who've been there a very long time, and they can do the same thing. I know, they've got some concerns coming up. Some of the contracts are coming due that we're going to want to see if they re-sign. Eli Drake is a big one that's coming due at the end of this month. They need to re-sign him because he's an incredible talent. If not, I guarantee you WWE is going to want to swoop in and pick him up. So will All Elite Wrestling or Ring of Honor, because he's amazing, and really Impact Wrestling hasn't used him very well. But at least they locked down OVE and Sami Callihan a couple weeks ago, so that whole faction is good to go for the foreseeable future. One last tidbit for today: the Young Bucks shocked the wrestling world, showing up at the AAA Rey de Reyes event down in Mexico. So the setup for this was the Lucha Brothers just became the tag team champions. They're in the ring. Conan comes out and he's talking some trash. The lights go out and we have an impromptu tag team championship match between the Lucha Brothers and the Young Bucks, which see the Young Bucks incapacitate Phoenix outside and then hit their Meltzer driver in the ring to defeat Pentagon and Phoenix for the AAA Tag Team Championships. Look it up online. They got the belts over their shoulders. They look great with those championships. But this adds a layer to the All Elite Wrestling Double or Nothing event, where now you could put those AAA Tag Team Championships on the line at the pay-per-view. And let's face it, All Elite Wrestling doesn't have all that stuff yet. There's no AEW Tag Team Champions yet. So why create something right now that you don't have to? Use the AAA Tag Team Championship. AAA will love the exposure of All Elite Wrestling. It's a sellout so fast. And at the same time, you get an opportunity to see that match have just one more layer added to it to make it that much more memorable. It should be good stuff. That's all the time we have for this episode. Check back with us next episode where we'll run down all the latest wrestling news and rumors. Special thanks, as always, goes out to bensound.com and purpleplanet.com for producing any music and sound effects we use in our shows. Today's podcast is sponsored in part by Beazle Games. Bringing a new friend to family game night is easy with sketchy people. Showcase your artistic side in this game from Beazle Games by going to frowrestling.com and clicking the icon in the middle of the screen. And to alleyrepair.com. Contact Alley Repair today for servicing of all your classic skee-ball, pinball, and arcade game needs. If you're looking for your next career move, you're considering college, university life, or you just need some formal training for your next career decision, go to our sister website at frolifeplanning.com for all your higher education needs, as Fro Life Educational Planning is for today, for tomorrow, and for life with Fro Life. I'm Fred Froelich, better known as Mr. Fro. I want to thank you so much for taking a few moments with us today. And if you're looking for more wrestling news and rumors, make sure you check out www.tsj101sports.com for their latest articles on the world of professional wrestling, or stop by my blog, Fro's Corner, located on ProWrestling.com. If you're an indie wrestling fan, check out the indie events tab on ProWrestling.com for events coming to an area near you. Support indie wrestling. Until next time, take care, everybody. Have a great night.